What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Monster Bass channel. I'm Jeff Burlingame with Burley Fishing, and today we're talking about how to rig every single bait that came in this month's Monster Bass bag. Let's get to it. As always, if you guys like the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel, smash a like, ring the notification bell, and if you could, hop on over to Burley Fishing right here on YouTube and give me a subscribe as well. Hit me up in the comments. Say hey. It's the really tough time of year for us to fish, especially up in the Midwest, northern regions. It's just not happening. The fish are not cooperating as much. We're kind of waiting for ice to come in, which is why it's nice to be able to get the ice fishing box that Monster Bass also offers. You guys should check it out. My buddy Paul, co-host of the Burley Fishing podcast, usually does an unboxing right here on the channel, so stay tuned for that. Now, as for the actual bass baits, let's get into what they are and how we're gonna rig them, where to fish them, the gear we're gonna fish them on, etc. So first off, I wanna hit these two crankbaits. Now I've talked about my crankbait setup here on the channel before, so I'm not gonna beat it to death, but I run a 7/6 Guide Select cranking rod from Akuma, and that is a medium heavy. It's got slow action, and again, if you guys are using treble baits, lipless baits, blade baits, crankbaits, square bills, etc., you should be using a slower to moderate action rod. It allows you to play the fish better, it's safer for the fish, and you lose less fish in the process. So definitely look into a cranking setup, it is worth it. Now, the reel I throw that on, as always, is the SLX DC from Shimano, and I run it on the lower gear ratio, which is a 6:6:1. So if you guys are looking for a similar setup to mine, there you go. And I'm actually gonna run every single body bait that came in this month's bag on that exact same setup, so we don't have to talk about the setups anymore. Look at that, look at us go. As for line, I've mentioned this before too, so I always go a braid as my main line, typically 20 to 30 pound. In the case of my cranking setup, it's 20-pound braid. And we're gonna run that on a fluorocarbon leader so that we can get these things down to the depth they're supposed to be fished at. So in the case of this Castaic CC6 crankbait in the fall bluegill color, look at that baby right there, says it dives 4 to 6 feet. So if I run this on a monofilament leader, it's gonna run closer to the 4 feet. If I run this on a fluorocarbon leader, especially a longer one, I can get it down 6 feet, maybe even more. Especially if you went like full fluoro, you might get down a little bit more. Where are we running these things? Shallow depths. Right now, what I wanna do is, ultimately I need to use my sonar. So I need to actually move around the lake, try to map out whatever I can, figure out where these fish are going as these water temps plummet. We took a good 20-degree plunge in our water temps around me, so it dropped off severely, and now I'm trying to figure out where the heck these fish are hiding. So if I can use my sonar, if I can go graph the lake, if I can figure out or mark some fish and see where they're at, usually they're stacking up. And they're not eating nearly as often, but when they do eat, they're definitely looking for easy meals. Something like, I don't know, a sporadic crankbait that's cruising through the neighborhood. So I'd be running this thing 4 to 6 foot depth, either open water if I saw them suspending, or I'm just gonna scrape the bottom and have this run in like a 4 to 6 foot deep area of your local fishery. Coming in that natural pattern, natural colors seem to do really well in this colder water, so I'd recommend doing something like that. Then we go to the good old bait lab. This thing is a lot more flashy than that one, a little bit bigger, a little bit louder, and it's got this interesting lip shape to it. So if you haven't fished a crankbait with a lip like that, it's got a nice tight wobble to it, which I really like, and this like holographic bluegill color tends to really pop right now. This has been catching me pike actually. So if you want to catch pike, fantastic option right here. They are smoking these things. Pike are more active in this colder water, so if you are targeting them, they're a lot of fun in my opinion. You can get them on stuff like this. Now the bass, again, like I said, you're gonna have to find them first, but if you run this by them a couple of times, you can probably get a nice bite. So let's talk about this new bait, right? This is the brand new lipless from Monster Bass, and I want you guys to pay attention to how unique this is. This is totally different than most of your lipless baits that you guys are throwing because, check it out, it is ultra thin. Look at that. This thing really stood out to me when I first saw it. It was kind of a surprise when it dropped. So apparently we're calling this thing the Incision 69. Nice. And this is Crawlicious, this color. It's like a magma craw. It is hot craw. Look at this, bright reds and oranges there. Nice color to it. Great outline for the craw shape. I like it. Looks nice and natural. You still got the signature red front treble, But again, this thin shape to it is awesome, especially this time of year, and it's got a heavy thud to it. That means this thing is gonna vibrate pretty well when moved through the water, especially vertically. So, what are we doing this time of year? Typically, I'm slowing down, I'm downsizing, doing all sorts of stuff, but something like this or those crankbaits I showed you can definitely still work. This one in particular, anytime I'm throwing a lipless this time of year or a blade bait, I'm typically bombing it out there as far as I can. So I'll make a nice big cast with that cranking setup I talked about, and I'm going to vertically jig it back to my boat. So you're just gonna let it fall to the bottom. It's gonna hit the bottom, right, like so. Then we're going to rip that up, and on the way up, that's where you get that vibe. So it's gonna move on the way up, make some noise, and hopefully draw in some bites. Then I'm gonna let it fall again like a dying bait fish, rinse and repeat until I'm back to the boat, and then do it again. And generally I'll just kind of like fan cast an area doing that, especially if you find some ledges, some drop-offs. This time of year I'm looking for changes in the contours of the body of water I'm on. So any change of depth, any variation, typically you're gonna find fish on that area, and this is a great bait to really pick that area apart. So go searching. This is not a great bait for me this time of year. However, if you guys are down south, I've heard topwater is still working. So I'm jealous of you and I want you to throw this bait. So if you got the steel shad popper, this thing is awesome. Honestly, I don't own a fire tiger, which is what I'm gonna go ahead and call this, fire tiger colored popper. This thing is fantastic looking. It's got a nice shape to it. I think it's gonna walk really well. Obviously be very buoyant. It's topwater bait. Got some good weight to it, so it looks like you can bomb it out there really far. I love the tail dressing on this. Look at that. It's a huge feather to it. Nice. So that's gonna have some really good action. Giant scoop to the mouth. This is a big old blooper shape. Kind of reminds me of almost like a mega bass popper, but for way less than $1 million. And it looks really good. So I dig this. Topwater baits right now, I'm not throwing them, but if you're down south, definitely throw this. So throw this thing out there over weed lines, over any cover changes in depths, ledges, etc. Get it out there, run it along pad lines and stuff like that, and get yourself a gosh dang topwater bite. I'll be super jealous of you. Next up, we got a solid classic here, the steel shad blade bait. This is like the original blade bait with a little pink to it. Pink, purple, reds, oranges, those are colors that can really knock them dead this time of year. So if you're not throwing something like that, consider it. Plus we've got multiple rigging options, as you can see up here. How it's rigged right now is for more of a horizontal presentation. And when you cast it out there, it's gonna take a nosedive because here's our weight right here at the front. So it's gonna dive down like that. Same as I was talking about with the Incision 69 lipless from Monster Bass. Ow. Is you're gonna take a blade bait, bomb it out there. They're meant to be vertically jigged. So you're gonna yo-yo it back to the boat. And if you're ice fishing for something giant, then you could vertically jig this thing through your ice fishing hole. It's never easy to say ice hole. Quit being such an ice hole. Lots of options. I would use the same exact setup if I was ice fishing with that, probably using more like a medium ice fishing rod, a little bit longer, 27 to 32 inches. And some of my favorites out there are by 13 Fishing, so you can go check them out. The White Noise is a pretty inexpensive one that I have in a medium that I like a lot. And I'll rig it up with a very small size spinning reel, something like that, or an inline reel like the 13 Fishing Black Betty. Those are fantastic. All right, what do we got next? We got another absolute classic here coming from Steel Shad. You get a 3-pack of these paddle tails and one of them's pre-rigged. Check it out. We've got the ball head jig paddle tail. Absolute classic. This color is not on the packaging, so I have no idea, but it's a natural color. You got some green pumpkin, silver, red flake in there. Like, it looks pretty juicy with the black ball head jig. Weight wise, probably looking at like ½ an ounce. Again, nothing is on the package, so I have no idea. And you got like a nice little kick and tail there, one that's a little bit better for cover, being that it's a little bit skinnier. So what am I doing with this? I honestly never throw these. However, it's a fantastic river bait. So if you're going after walleye this time of year, this could be money, or just re-rig it with your choice colored plastic in paddle tail or a grub or something like that, and you're gonna knock them dead. This is something I'm fishing off the bottom. So if I'm fishing this in my lakes right now, I'm gonna, again, look for those weed lines, contour changes, change in cover, all that stuff. And I'm gonna let this hit the bottom. hop it a little bit, fish it kind of like a Ned, but also swim it, or shaky head, right? So just hop, 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 move it up to that cover, swim it along the cover, kind of parallel those lines, and hopefully get a bite on it. Some I'd have much more luck on late spring. Right now, gonna be really tough for me, but maybe you guys will have better luck. Again, just straight vertically jigging stuff this time of year is never a bad idea. Brings us to our last two baits here. We got a Z-Man Big Turd, and then we got the Big Bite Bait Smallie Smasher in a slightly upsized version. This is 4.5 inches green pumpkin purple flake. All right, drop shot first. I'm fishing this on a light rig. So this is my Akuma Cero 7-foot light spinning rod, and I'm using the Akuma Helios SX spinning reel. Another good option is the Akuma Inspira, and then of course you can look at all sorts of other brands. I recently picked up the 13 Fishing Kalon 2.0 for my medium heavy setup, but just kind of pick your spinning reel of choice. Now the deal is with drop shot that you want to go with as light as possible, depending on the cover, current wind situation that you're dealing with. So like 1/8 of an ounce is a good idea. If you're not dealing with too much wind, I'll upsize to 1/4 ounce or even 1/2, depending on how heavy the current is or how fast the wind is, so I can get my casts out there. But I want this thing to fall slowly. I want it to be able to just sort of drift gently through the water and really attract those fish in with the natural action of this plastic. So I like using Wu tungsten tube weights just like this, and they are easy to tie on. You got this little pinch section there. Run the line through, tie a little knot, pinch it up into this section here, and then tie a backup knot, and you're not gonna lose these things. Then if I'm throwing a slightly bigger plastic, I'm gonna run that on like a 1/0 Gamakatsu drop shot hook. Love these hooks, they're fantastic. Take our Big Bite Bait Smallie Smasher, and I'll just nose hook it. If I don't have much cover to deal with, throw the nose hook. If I do have some cover to go through the nose. Okay, so it's just sticking out through that nose just a little bit. It helps me get through that cover a little bit more, and it'll actually make this thing stand up a little bit better. But here you go, check out that action you're gonna have. Look at this little flat tail on the end. This is gonna move a ton in the water and be really enticing, especially in a natural color like this, which is pretty much goby. I mean, it's green pumpkin purple, it's goby. There are some pretty cool other options that you guys can get as well. They make drop shot hooks with a little spike coming off the front so that you can actually just shove your plastic in right there and be completely free of the hook. That's interesting. With this size in the Midwest where I fish, I would not do that, but if I had a downsized plastic, I would probably consider it. I think that'd be cool. Last bait up, we got the Z-Man Big Turd. Now this, really just a big old Ned rig, but you can also use it a lot of different ways. So if you guys don't know, Elastec is extremely durable, number one, but it's also extremely buoyant. So there's a couple options I like to use these for. This is coming in the June bug color. Number one, Ned rig it. We've got a purple saber-tooth Ned rig EWG here from Monster Bass. So I'm just gonna rig this up like so. And the purples go together so well. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. And there you go, rig it as straight as you can. It's an EWG, so it's not gonna get snagged up nearly as much. That purple, as you guys can see, goes together really well. Look at that, that is straight juice right there. So big old Ned. You can go open hook Ned as well, or we Carolina rig this baby. So grab yourself like a nice barrel weight, something like this Wu Tungsten Never Chip right there. Would be fantastic. Rig this up on an EWG or an offset worm hook is actually a good idea, just to get through cover and stuff a little bit easier. There are too many tutorials out there on Carolina rigs for me to even dabble in it, but the gist of it is this, and if you want to see it, just Google it. But you've got your weight, maybe a bead or two, maybe a clacker, another little piece of lead weight that goes between the beads to make some noise. You might peg that weight there, and then you're gonna tie off your main line to a swivel. From the swivel, you're gonna run a leader, generally 18+ inches long, and at the end of that, you'll have an EWG or an offset worm hook, which you'll rig this up to. This being extremely floaty and monofilament leader line being really floaty means that when you bomb that Carolina rig out there, and this thing hits the water, this is gonna come down very slowly, and it's got a lot of action, so it's gonna look really good and enticing for those fish to go after. So I'd recommend trying it that way. I think that I will as well. Done and dusted. There we go, another month in the bag. We've gone through all the baits that came in this month's bag from Monster Bass, so get out there and go fish if you can. If you're in your off season, I feel you. I'm in my off season. I'm waiting for ice to come in up here in Michigan. Hopefully that's sooner rather than later so I can get back to catching some fishies because, oh my gosh, I have withdrawal right now. Otherwise, do what I do and start dealing with reorganizing all of your tackle. It's a lot of fun. In fact, over on the Burley Fishing channel, part of my cleanup efforts is to give all my stuff away. So if you want a chance to win a giveaway, go over to Burley Fishing, make sure you're subscribed, stay tuned. Every Monday this month, we are dropping a giveaway, and all you'll have to do is comment on the video, be a subscriber, and smash the like button. Super simple, couldn't be simpler, and we appreciate you guys for checking us out. Of course, be sure to subscribe to Monster Bass as well, and hopefully this video was helpful for you. If it was, smash the like, ring that notification bell, come back for another video. We drop them 3 days a week. We'll see you guys in the next one.